Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Stacks. I'm your host, Bill Stacks, and today I got Jack O'Halloran.
So, the whole thing was just...
So they orchestrated the parade route that they went on?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I mean, if you were going to shoot Kennedy from that window, you would have shot him as the car approached Dealey Plaza. You wouldn't have waited for it to go down Dealey Plaza, because once it went down Dealey Plaza, there were trees, there were signs, the wind was terrible. There were all kinds of obstacles. And if you're a shooter, you have to take all that into consideration, and you have to arrest your heart. Anybody will tell you who's a sniper. When you're going to take a sniper shot, you got to arrest your heart down below 60, because your pulse is in your finger. You understand? So if you're going to control a rifle, now if you're going to shoot 3 shots with a bolt action mail order gun, you're not doing that with any accuracy in 28 seconds. It's just because you have to set down and take total aim and rest yourself to fire the first shot. You're going to fire 2 shots immediately right afterwards? I don't think so.
And you have to load the bullets. You have to.
Well, the bullets are in the car, but you have to. It's a bolt action rifle.
Manually do it, right? You're manually.
You have to bolt action. You have to put the bolt in the chamber every time you want. So it's that's a bunch of hook. So there was a mail order rifle, and the accuracy of a mail order rifle, the type of rifle it was, had no accuracy whatsoever at any distance. So the whole thing was a joke. And Oswald wasn't even in the building. So.
And when they arrested Oswald, they roughed
him up.
In
a movie theater.
He has like a black eye in the video. You could see.
Well, they arrested him when they grabbed him out of the movie theater. Whatever happened. They took a weapon off of him. He was carrying a weapon. Why would he be sitting in a movie theater with a gun in his pocket? How stupid is that?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, it doesn't make
sense. The whole
sense.
thing was a joke. I mean, first of all, he wasn't any marksman. Even when he was in the Army, he was not ever a marksman. Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy from day one. His mother was a hooker in New Orleans. She worked for Carlos Marcellus. And they grabbed Oswald. They made him a patsy day one. They needed a patsy for what they were going to do. That's how far advanced this thing was put. They sent him to Russia. He married a KGB girl, and they sent him to Russia. And he couldn't keep his mouth shut. Every apartment they put him in, he kept talking. So they threw him out of Russia because he was useless. And he came home from Russia, a disgraced individual. And he was a perfect patsy for what they wanted him to do.
And was their plan to have it traced back to Carlos Marcello?
Well, they tried to blame Marcello's because it was New Orleans and close to there, and they tried to blame the mafia, period. And then they tried to blame the CIA because of the Bay of Pigs. Bay of Pigs, all those kids got slaughtered because Kennedy's father told his son, "Oh, you don't need any air support or any support for those guys," and they got slaughtered. And I knew a couple of CIA guys; they were not very happy about that. All those kids got killed because Joe Kennedy was involved in a missile deal with Cuba, and he told his son, you don't need any military support or any of that. That'll only start a problem. Well, they all got murdered. They got patsies in the sitting ducks in the water. So. The whole thing is just whitewashes all the way back. And every decade they come out with new documentation claiming the truth. It comes out slowly and slowly and slowly. And now you got this guy 60 years later, all of a sudden he's writing a book. Oh, I heard 3 shots. I know there were 3 shots fired. Well, that just blows the shit out of the one bullet theory, doesn't it?
Yeah, that cuts that theory down.
There were more people that, there were people there that heard and saw what happened. And the Real Zapruder film shows the driver and the driver himself on his deathbed did a deathbed confession that he shot Kennedy the last shot. When they did the autopsy and they shipped his body right to Washington. So nobody ever, it's just all, the whole thing was covered up. So,
and then you
that's
got
it.
these
The truth
doctors.
comes out. Eventually, it all comes out.
You got these alleged doctors. Well, they're doctors now, right? They got their degrees after all this happened.
Yeah.
How
they took them to Washington and did another autopsy up there. No one ever talks about that. And the whole thing was just, it was totally covered up. But the beauty is that Bobby was his brother's second skin his whole political career. He wasn't there before, he wasn't there during, and he never went there afterwards. And the cauldron, where the first shot was fired by Johnny Roselli, has been cemented over. They went to do a documentary because the cauldron went from the river to Dealey Plaza, the street, and it was big enough for me to walk down. You understand? So a man could walk down that cauldron and stand right there by the sewer and take whatever shot he wanted.
So do you know all the players involved that shot Kennedy? Do you know all their names?
Well, Johnny Roselli took the first shot out of the cauldron. He was the one that shot him first. The other guy, it was one of the crew over in the hill beside the car.
The grassy knoll.
Yeah, the grassy knoll. Shot came out of there, and shots came from all around there. The car was shot up. Kennedy was shot 3 times. It was a fiasco. The whole thing was a fiasco. But it accomplished what it was supposed to accomplish. It was the most tragic thing in our American history. The president of the United States assassin, but he shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Especially in a convertible. It makes no sense to
have
this
guy.
He's
in an open car. Like I said, he's in an open car in front of a huge crowd with the Bird Building, with all the windows open and people walking around. You had all these hobos walking over that bridge off of a train. It should never have happened. There shouldn't have been nobody there. You got the president on the street below you. Just total foolishness.
So where was Bobby Kennedy's investigation?
And then even after that, when Jack was president, his father went to him and said to him, before he went to Dealey Plaza, his father went to him and said, Jack, these wealthy guys, these oil guys down there in Texas, they have a product that they're selling and they're not paying any tax on it. And you have to levy a tax on it. It's called surplus oil. And these guys were making a lot of money selling surplus oil. So he levied a tax on it, and it cost them like $200 million a year. So I think that made a few people kind of angry,
Yeah, a lot of people were probably very upset about that.
So you had a lot of factions of people who had responsibility for being angry. But the whole thing was plotted by one group of people. It wasn't anybody from the United States.
So let me ask you this.
Carlos Sanchez, the Jackal, he orchestrated the whole thing. That means it came from Europe.
So Carlos Sanchez is the main ringleader behind Kennedy's death.
Yeah, he was the Jackal. The Jackal, you ever see the movie The Day of the Jackal? This guy was the premier assassin of Europe, and they never caught him. I mean, the guy was so clever. He used to travel around as a priest. He never talked on the phone. He put money in a bank account, and he took care of business. He never spoke on the phone. He used to go, if you talked to him, he went to a confessional and talked to him in a confessional. He wouldn't see you face to face. He was a clever guy.
What ended up happening with him? Where did his life go?
There's a guy sitting in jail in France, supposed to be him, but it's not him. He's down on his father's ranch in Buenos Aires.
Is he still alive?
Last time I heard he was. I don't know. He could have passed away by now. He's pretty old right now.
It would be wild if he came forward and told the story.
Never happened. Never, ever happened.
Crazier things have happened, Jack.
Not this guy. No.
No.
I met him a couple times. Boy, he's talking about Talking about a clever guy. Talking about a clever guy, boy.
Here, we can pause it for a second.
I have to call you right back. I'm doing a podcast. All right. Okay.
So, what can you walk me through the times you met the Jackal?
Let's just. I met him down in. I met him in Texas, and I met him in Europe.
What was your meeting consist of?
Sat down and had lunch with him. He was a smart guy, boy. He told me some stories that blow your mind away. He was clever. They could never catch him.
Did he tell you stories about JFK? This was before JFK was assassinated.
No, I met him afterwards.
Did he ever mention anything about the assassination of Kennedy?
He told me the truth about it. So how come I know?
Wow.
Told me the truth about it. He was the guy with the umbrella, the thing down there. The guy was he was like a legendary myth, you know? He was like a ghost. They tried to catch him for years, and they thought they caught him, and they put a guy in jail in France, and it wasn't him. He had a guy go and serve the time for him.
That's pretty smart.
Well, it's just like Saran was never the assassin of Bobby Kennedy.
This what I want to talk about next.
He went to jail. He went to jail for killing Bobby Kennedy. He never killed Bobby Kennedy.
Let's talk about the assassination of Bobby Kennedy and his prosecution of the mafia. Do you know anything about this story with him prosecuting these guys? And
he went after everybody. He tried to, Gene Conner had to leave Chicago, went out of the country for a while, and then Gene Conner got killed by we believe a CIA guy. So, somebody that knew him got in his house. You couldn't just get in his house that easy. And it's just they were just closing the doors on everything. You understand?
Yeah, sweeping it all up, right? Cleaning it up.
They're just closing the doors on all situations, and just trying to keep everything to where it would never be divulged. But every 10 years, stuff keeps coming up, and it keeps, changing the whole. Like it blows the Warren Commission totally out of the water. The Warren Commission was put together by a bunch of Yaleys, and boom, it's total farce.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous.
So where was Bobby Kennedy's investigation into the mafia? Because he was the attorney general at the time.
He was the top cop in the country. Everybody thought Hoover was the top cop in the country. Hoover wasn't the top cop in the country. Bobby Kennedy was. He was the attorney general.
What happened after his brother gets killed?
His father whispered in his ear and said, "Put all my good friends in jail."
Oh, that was after the assassination?
Afterwards, sure. It was afterwards, because he wanted to clean up the mess. And he said, "Put all my friends in jail." He went after, Gene Conner put Jack Kennedy in the presidency, for God's sake. He was supposed to be tied into the White House like a lock. And they turned around and just double-crossed everybody. They said, put this guy in jail, put that guy in jail. And Bobby Kennedy went after everybody. The Warren Commission, was bullshit.
Let me ask you this, Jack. How come they didn't just go kill the father and end it all? Like, how come they didn't go to the source of the problem and get rid of him?
That wouldn't have solved anything. He had a worse ending. He had a very terrible stroke, and he was confined to a wheelchair. And Rose Kennedy beat the shit out of him every day after that.
She was abusive?
She beat the shit out of him every day. All the stuff he did to her, God, I don't blame her.
Oh, so it was kind of like the tables have turned, huh?
Oh yeah, he couldn't move. He had a bad stroke.
Wow.
But he was still alive.
So then, Do you know what happened with the Robert Kennedy assassination?
What do you mean? What happened? The
What
guy
happened
got
with
he was
Bobby
killed.
Sirhan? You said
He
that
didn't. Sirhan did not kill Bobby Kennedy, but he went to jail for it.
He's out of prison now.
What?
I spoke to Sirhan. He's out of prison now.
Is he out?
Yes.
And what did he tell you? He killed Bobby Kennedy?
No.
He never told you that.
No.
Because he didn't.
Do you know who killed Bobby Kennedy?
That's beside the point. Sirhan didn't kill him.
That's probably why he's out of prison now, huh?
Well, I mean, he served time, though. He went to jail for it.
Yeah, but normally if you try to assassinate a president, you're not getting out of prison.
He's out of prison. And when did you speak to him?
About a year and a half ago.
Right when what did he tell you?
About a year ago.
What did he tell you?
He was supposed to come on my show.
What did he tell you?
He didn't tell me much about the situation. He didn't want to talk about it.
He sure didn't want to talk about it because he don't want to die.
Yeah, he didn't want to talk about it. You got to
understand something. Everybody who was involved in this thing is dead. Everyone who was involved in any aspect of it is dead. You understand that?
Yeah. But I'm sure there's people out there that want to clean up the rest, right?
You can clean up, you know, it keeps coming out. Every 10 years, they come up with something different. They come up with more truth about what happened. But you're never going to be told the exact gospel truth because you wouldn't be walking around.
So Sirhan was locked up in the R.J. Donovan unit. And the way I met him is I had a connection in there with an inmate who had a cell phone. And I was speaking with him every day. I've spoken to quite a few people in R.J. Donovan. I spoke to Suge Knight, spoke to Sirhan, spoke to a couple other pretty big names. I got Lyle Menendez on my show.
But Sirhan didn't. He flat out told you he did not kill Bobby Kennedy because he didn't.
Well, he didn't want to talk about it. I asked him. He said no comment. He said he didn't want to talk about it.
Well, I have a book. What would you expect him to say?
I don't know. Maybe he would give me something. I don't know. It's worth a shot, right? Closed mouths don't get fed. It was worth the shot to ask him. So I have a book about Bobby Kennedy, about the assassination, and I wanted him to sign it.
And what did he say to you?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, he said, no, it's not happening.
The guy got away with his life, and you were going to try to jeopardize his life?
I didn't look at it.
Stupid? Let me tell you something.
I didn't look at it that way.
They never touched him in jail. Nobody ever touched him. If he really did what they said he did, they'd have killed him in jail. Nobody touched him. He served X amount of years. I didn't even know he was out, but I guess he should have been on anyway. But he served X amount of years, and he's walking around now today and probably got paid a lot of money.
It says his parole got denied on this, but I heard that he was in a halfway house. I spoke to him when he was at the R.J. Donovan Correctional Center.
I absolutely, personally don't know. Don't really give a shit.
He's 79 years old.
I mean, I don't care. It's none of my business. You know, that was his problem. I know one thing. I know he didn't kill Bobby Kennedy. I know he went to jail for it, and he got blamed for it. But there was a guy called Greer there, who was a ball player, who was protecting Bobby Kennedy. He knew damn right well that Sirhan didn't kill him either.
I know. He's got all this security around him, right? His Secret Service, right, was all around him.
And then all of a sudden there was a porthole that opened up and somebody walked up and shot him. What do you think about that, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty convenient that happened, huh?
Well, look at the way his brother died. Look at the way they disgraced Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy went through a lot with
a lot. He was a that car was rigged to go into that pond. There was a firehouse 100 feet away. Teddy could have walked over to the firehouse and got help. He didn't. He went home and took a shower and went to bed.
Yeah.
Hello. And you hear what I said?
Yeah.
He let that girl drown. And the family paid her family off because they made a big stink about it. Somebody rigged the tire in the car, and the car went into the pond. He could have got her out of that car. He could have went 100 feet down to a firehouse and got help. But he didn't. He went home, got in the shower, and went to bed.
Why do you think he went home and
left her? He's an arrogant ass. That's why. He always was.
Save his own self, right?
That's exactly correct.
A lot of people out there, that's what they're that's what happens.
There's people like that all over the place. I mean, you know, God, you're smarter than that, Billy. You know, sometimes people, you know, you can't. There's certain things that have been held back and not spoken about because people fear for their lives. Every person who investigated the Kennedy deal died. There was a guy in New York who was a famous reporter who had all kinds of material, died. They killed him. And the stuff disappeared. You know, you play with certain things, it's like a smoking gun, man. You just don't play in certain areas or you wind up with a bullet in your ass.
Especially when it comes to the government and all this.
Well, there's certain things that people just don't want. You know, there's certain things that happen in life. It's like Jimmy Hoffa. You know, everybody, where's Jimmy Hoffa? What happened to Jimmy Hoffa? Where's he? He's buried under a bridge. He's buried here. No one's ever told the truth about that.
What's your aspect on Jimmy Hoffa? What do you think happened?
Jimmy was his own worst enemy. Jimmy was a good guy. I like Jimmy Hoffa a lot. Jimmy was a man's man. He would not ask you to do something he wouldn't do himself. But he got himself in. I mean, they charged him. They said he stole $8,000 from the pension fund. There was no pension fund until Hoffa put it there. And let me tell you something. If Jimmy Hoffa wanted something fixed at his house, people would have lined up in lines to do it for nothing. You understand?
They loved him. Yeah, they loved him that much.
He backed the wrong president, and they put a charge against him. And I remember the day he went to jail. Every trucker lined up all along the road while he drove by going up to Lewisburg, and they tooted their horns at him. The country came to a standstill that day. He thought he was going to jail for 3 months. He went there for a few years. He signed the worst deal in the world to get out.
What was the
deal? He
was
not supposed to touch the union. He wasn't supposed to do this. He wasn't supposed to do that.
Supposed to get
he came out of jail. Right? He went right into Fitzsimmons' office and he told him, "Get out of my desk." Fitzsimmons said, "Well, Jimmy, you can't be here. You're going to get us all in trouble." He said, "Get out of my desk. This is my union. I'm taking it back now. My union."
I mean, it was his union. Do you agree?
But you got to understand something. You know, Fitzsimmons was under thumb to people. They blew his kid's car up, almost killed his kid. Scared him to death. He did everything he was told to do, and Jimmy knew it. And Jimmy said, "That's it. You get up, get. I'm taking my union back." Then he got on the phone with New York, and he got in an argument on the phone with New York. And they kept telling him, "Jimmy, it's just calm down. Give it some time." Well, I don't want to hear that shit. Blah, 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 blah. He went back and forth.